live. All right, here we are. Sorry, chat. Sorry. Internet went down for a sec, but we're back. We are freaking back, and we are finishing this freaking book today. um, we are live. It says, all right, all right. Make sure everything is going well. Hmm. Come on. So it's showing up in my creator dashboard. It's not showing up. Like an actual thing you can view. What the hell? There it is. Excuse me. I'm so sorry. Are we back? Hello. There we are. Okay. There's the stupid cat. Meow, meow, meow. Oh, let's get us back to the right picture, too. That's the one. There's the live. We're not going to worry about Insta because that link sends them to just the channel itself where they can find the video, the live, whatever it is. Whatever time it might be. It'll be a live right now, but a video later. Okay, and then we go ahead and post the new ones to Twitter and Blue Sky just because it's a different link. Those ones are actually linked to the stream itself. Freaking Japan. The title is right there, Japan. What do you mean is it Helldivers themed? It's Flatland. Freaking Japan, you're so funny. What a butt. He knows what he's doing. He knows exactly what he's doing. Okay, post it to here. I just need people to know that this is happening in 3 parts now. It would have been great if we could have done it in 2, but no such luck. Maybe this is a reason for me to go in and actually do some editing, get all 3 of these things together. Okay, we're back. We are ready to go. We have like 20 more pages, chat. 20 more pages, and we can call it a stream. Then we can do some monster hunting, some hell divers, something else. I did. Okay, so there is one more story that I want to read when we get through with this Flatland. It's called The Last Question, and it's a really short one, but it's a really good one. Maybe the egg too. Um, Da 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 dum da 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 dum dee 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 Da 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 dum da 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 dum da dum da 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 dum da dum dee dim dee dee dim dee 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 dim dee dee dim dee 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 dim dee 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 dim dee dim da dum. Okay. How the sphere, having in vain tried words, resorted to deeds. It was in vain. I brought my hardest right angle into a violent collision with the stranger, pressing on him with a force sufficient to have destroyed any ordinary circle. But I could feel him slowly and unarrestably slipping from my contact, no edging to the right nor to the left, but moving somehow out of the world and vanishing to nothing. Soon there was a blank, but still I heard the intruder's voice. Fear. Why will you refuse to listen to reason? I had hoped to find in you, as being a man of sense and accomplished mathematician, a fit apostle for the gospel of three dimensions, which I am allowed to preach once only in 1,000 years. But now I know not how. Now I know not how to convince you. Stay, I have it. Deeds and not words shall proclaim the truth. Listen, my friend. I have told you I can see from my position in space the inside of all things that you consider closed. For example, I see in yonder cupboard near which you are standing several of what you call boxes, but like everything else in Flatland, they have no tops nor bottoms, full of money. I also see two tables of accounts. I am about to descend into that cupboard and to bring you one of those tablets. I saw you lock in the cupboard half an hour ago, and I know you have the key in your possession. But I descend from space. The doors you see remain unmoved. Now I am in the cupboard and I am taking the tablet. Now I have it. Now I ascend with it. I rushed to the closet and dashed the door open. One of the tablets was gone. With a mocking laugh, the stranger appeared in the other corner of the room, and at the same time the tablet appeared upon the floor. I took it up. There could be no doubt. It was the missing tablet. I groaned with horror, doubting whether I was not out of my senses, but the stranger continued. Surely you must now see that my explanation and no other suits the phenomena. What you call solid things are really superficial. What you call space is really nothing but a great plane. I am in space and look down upon the insides of things, of which you only see the outsides. You could leave this plane yourself if you could but summon up the necessary volition. A slight upward or downward motion would enable you to see all that I can see. The higher I mount, the further I go from your plane, the more I can see, though of course I see it on a smaller scale. For example, I am ascending now. I can see your neighbor, the hexagon, and his family in their several apartments. Now I see the inside of the theater, 10 doors off, from which the audience is only just departing. And on the other side, I see a circle in his study, sitting at his books. Now I shall come back to you. And just as crowning proof, what do you say to my giving you a touch, just the least touch, in your stomach? I will not seriously injure you, and the slight pain you may suffer cannot be compared with the mental benefit you will receive. Before I could utter a word of remonstrance, I felt a shooting pain in my inside, and the demoniacal laugh seemed to issue from within me. A moment afterwards, the sharp agony had ceased, leaving nothing but a dull ache behind, and the stranger began to reappear, saying as he gradually increased in size, "There, I have not hurt you much, have I? If you are not convinced now, I don't know what will convince you. What say you?" My resolution was taken. It seemed intolerable that I should endure existence subject to the arbitrary visitations of a magician who could thus play tricks with one's very stomach. If only I could come in any way if only I could in any way manage to pin him against the wall till help came. Once more I dashed my hardest angle against him, and at the same time alarming the whole household by my cries for aid. I believe at the moment of my onset, the stranger had sunk below our plane and really found difficulty in rising. In any case, he remained motionless, while I, hearing as I thought the sound of some help approaching, pressed him against him with redoubled vigor and continued to shout for assistance. A convulsive shudder ran through the sphere. This must not be, I thought I heard him say. Either he must listen to reason, or I must have recourse to the last resource of civilization. Then, addressing me in a louder tone, he hurriedly exclaimed, "Listen, no stranger must witness what you have witnessed. Send your wife back at once before she enters the apartment. The gospel of three dimensions must not be thus frustrated. No, not thus must the fruits of 1,000 years of waiting be thrown away. I hear her coming. Back, back, away from me, or you must go with me, whether you know not, into the land of three dimensions." "Fool, madman, irregular!" I exclaimed. "Never will I release thee. Thou shalt pay the penalty of thine impostures." "Ha, it has come to this," thundered the stranger. "Then meet your fate. Out of your plane you go. Once, twice, thrice, 'tis done." Chapter 18. How I came to Spaceland and what I saw there. He's taking a strange voyage to a mysterious place. An unspeakable horror seized me. There was darkness, then a dizzy, sickening sensation of sight that was not like seeing. I saw the line that was no line, space that was not space. I was myself and not myself. When I could find voice, I shrieked aloud in agony. "Either this is madness or it is hell." "It is neither," calmly replied the voice of the sphere. "It is knowledge. It is three dimensions. Open your eye once again and try to look steadily." I looked, and behold, a new world there stood before me, visibly incorporates all that I had before inferred, conjectured, dreamed of perfect circular beauty. What seemed the center of the stranger's form lay open to my view, yet I could see no heart, no lungs, no arteries, only a beautiful, harmonious something, for which I had no words, but you, my readers in Spaceland, would call it the surface of the sphere. Prostrating myself mentally before my guide, I cried, "How is it, O divine ideal of consummate loveliness and wisdom, that I see thy inside and yet cannot discern thy heart, thy lungs, thy arteries, thy liver? What you think you see not," he replied. "It is not given to you, nor to any other being, to behold my internal parts. I am of a different order of beings from those in Flatland. Were I a circle, you could discern my intestines, but I am a being composed, as I told you before, of many circles, the many in the one in this country called a sphere. And just as the outside of a cube is a square, so the outside of a sphere presents the appearance of a circle." All right, Miku, you okay? Good job. Good job. All right, we clean your shits, and now you need to do some exercise. Yay! Good job, Mikus. Hold on. All right, all right. There we go. Dee 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 dee. All right, let's get this done. Let's get this over with. Let's go. Do 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 dee 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 dee. We're back. There's the okay. Uh, 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 um. Bewildered though I was by my teacher's enigmatic utterance, I no longer chaffed against it, but worshipped him in silent adoration. He continued with more mildness in his voice. "Distress not yourself if you cannot at first understand the deep mysteries of Spaceland. By degrees they will dawn upon you. Let us begin by casting back a glance at the region whence you came. Return with me a while to the plains of Flatland, and I will show you that which you have often reasoned and thought about, but never seen with the sense of sight, a visible angle." "Impossible!" I cried, but the spear leading the way, I followed as if in a dream, till once more his voice arrested me. "Look yonder, and behold your own pentagonal house and all its inmates." I looked below, and saw with my physical eye all the domestic individuality which I had hitherto merely inferred with the understanding, and how poor and shadowy was the inferred conjecture in comparison with the reality which I now beheld. My 4 sons calmly sleep in the northwestern rooms, and my 2 orphan grandsons to the south. Okay, so all the way at the top, you see four suns right there. One, two, three, four. The page in the study over there to the top. Let's see the middle portion. We can make this bigger. We can make it bigger. Okay, so the sun's up there at the top. You see them in the rooms. The study with the page, his bedroom. Below that, the wife's apartment. The woman's door is right there. That's how she enters. And then his daughter. They go through the woman's door. So they go through the wife's apartment to the daughter's room. The execution, the footman, and the butler. Those are these three isosceles triangles here above the cellar. Two orphan grandsons down there on the south side of the room. The wife there in the hall. And then here's the men's door. So all of these things he's seen from a different vantage point because now he is above Flatland instead of in Flatland. All this land talk is making me want to finish Sandland too. We got to get back to that game. Okay, we'll start here. And how poor and shadowy was the inferred conjecture in comparison with the reality which I now beheld. My four sons calmly asleep in the northwestern rooms, my two orphan grandsons to the south, the servants, the butler, my daughter, all in their several apartments. Only my affectionate wife, alarmed by my continued absence, had quitted her room and was roving up and down in the hall, anxiously awaiting my return. Also, the page, aroused by my cries, had left his room, and under pretext of ascertaining whether I had fallen somewhere in a faint, was prying into the cabinets in my study. All this I could now see, not merely infer, and as we came nearer and nearer, I could discern even the contents of my cabinet and the two chests of gold and the tablets of which the spear had made mention. Touched by my wife's distress, I would have sprung downward to reassure her, but I found myself incapable of motion. Trouble not yourself about your wife, said my guide. She will not be long left in anxiety. Meantime, let us take a survey of Flatland. Once more, I felt myself rising through space. It was even as the sphere had said. The further we receded from the object we beheld, the larger the larger became the field of vision. My native city, with the interior, every house and every creature therein, lay open to my view in miniature. We mounted higher and low. The secrets of the earth, the depths of mines, and inmost caverns of the hills were bared before me. Awestruck at the sight of the mysteries of the earth, thus unveiled before my unworthy eye, I said to my companion, Behold, I am become as a god, for the wise men in our country say that to see all things, or as they express it, omnividence, is the attribute of God alone. There was something of scorn in the voice of my teacher as he made answer. Is it so indeed? Then the very pickpockets and cutthroats of my country are to be worshipped by your wise men as being gods, for there is not one of them that does not see as much as you see now. But trust me, your wise men are wrong. Aye, then is omnividence the attribute of others besides gods? Sphere, I do not know, but if a pickpocket or cutthroat of our country can see everything that is in your country, surely that is not no reason why the pickpocket or cutthroat should be accepted by you as a god. The omnividence, as you call it, is not a common word in Spaceland. It is not a common word in Spaceland. Does it not make you more just, more merciful, less selfish, more loving? Not in the least. Then how does it make you more divine? Aye, more merciful, more loving, but these are the qualities of women, and we know that a circle is a higher being than a straight line, insofar as knowledge and wisdom are more to be esteemed than mere affection. Sphere. It is not for me to classify human faculties according to merit. Yet many of the best and wisest in Spaceland think more of the affections than of understanding, more of your despised straight lines than of your belauded circles. But enough of this. Look yonder. Do you know that building? I looked, and afar off I saw an immense polygonal structure, in which I recognized the great assembly hall of the states of Flatland, surrounded by dense lines of pentagonal buildings at right angles to each other, which I knew to be the streets, and I perceived that I was approaching the great metropolis. Here we descend, said my guide. It was now morning, the first hour of the first day of the 2000th year of our era. Acting as their wont, in strict accordance with precedents, the highest circles of the realm were meeting in solemn conclave as they had met on the first hour of the first day of the year 1000, and also on the first hour of the first day on the year 0. The minutes of the previous meetings were now read by one whom I recognized as my brother, a perfectly symmetrical square, and the chief clerk of the High Council. It was found recorded on each occasion that, whereas the states had been troubled by divers ill intentioned persons pretending to have received revelations from another world and professing to produce demonstrations whereby they had instigated to frenzy both themselves and others, it had been for this cause unanimously resolved by the Grand Council that on the first day of each millenary special injunctions shall be sent to the prefects in the several districts of Flatland to make strict search for such misguided persons, and without formality of mathematical examination, to destroy all such as were isosceles of any degree, to scourge and imprison, to scourge and imprison any regular triangle, to cause any square or pentagon to be sent to the district asylum, and to arrest anyone of higher rank, sending him straight away to the capital to be examined and judged by the council. So anyone who's coming out here saying all these strange and fantastical claims that very soon our own A square might be out there saying are to be either destroyed or imprisoned. Diverse ill-intentioned persons pretending to have received revelations from another world, which is exactly what he has received currently. You hear your fate, said the sphere to me, while the council was passing for the third time the formal resolution. Death or imprisonment awaits the apostle of the gospel of three dimensions. Not so, replied I. The matter is now so clear to me, the nature of real space so palpable, that methinks I could make a child understand it. Permit me but to descend at this moment and enlighten them. Not yet, said my guide. Oh, ask and you shall receive. He's about to get his, right? We already know his fates because we've, like begun the book, but he's here in the moment saying, everything is so clear, the scales have fallen from my eyes that I could teach even the youngest child, the smallest baby, the gospel of three dimensions. Not yet, said my guide. The time will come for that. Meantime, I must perform my mission. Stay thou there in thy place. Saying these words, he leaped with great dexterity into the sea, if I may so call it, a flatland, right in the midst of the ring of counselors. I come, he cried, to proclaim that there is a land of three dimensions. So he jumped right into it. He's over there making a spectacle of himself in front of all these grand chancellors, the ring of counselors, all these perfect circles, or almost perfect circles, as it were. I could see many of our younger counselors start back in manifest horror as the sphere's circular section widened before them. But on a sign from the presiding circle, who shewed not the slightest alarm or surprise, 6 isosceles of low type from 6 different quarters rushed upon the sphere. We have him, they cried. No, yes, we have him still. He's going. He's gone. My lords, said the president to the junior circles of the council, there is not the slightest need for surprise. The secret archives to which I alone have access tell me that a similar occurrence happened on the last 2 millennial commencements. You will, of course, say nothing of these trifles outside of the cabinet. So they know the gospel of three dimensions is there. There might be something to it, but they have to keep on lying about it in order to preserve the peace, right? Their preserved peace. Because what would they do if people wanted to see this third dimension? They would all go mad because there's no way for them to actually do it. The only way that A square has been able to grasp this thought is by having himself forcibly removed from Flatland by the sphere, by being pushed above it, and an A square is not able to do that by himself. And I don't think the sphere is going to be the one who's going to be helping him out, giving everyone rides. Raising his voice, he now summoned the guards. Arrest the policemen, gag them, you know your duty. After he had consigned to their fates the wretched policemen, ill-fated and unwilling witnesses of a state secret, which they were not to be permitted to reveal, he again addressed the councillors. My lords, the business of the council being concluded, I have only to wish you a happy new year. Before departing, he expressed at some length to the clerk, my excellent but most unfortunate brothers, his sincere regret that, in accordance with precedents and for the sake of secrecy, he must condemn him to perpetual imprisonment, but added his satisfaction that, unless some mention were made by him of that day's incident, his life would be spared. Chapter 19. How, though the sphere shewed me other mysteries of Spaceland, I still desired more, and what came of it. When I saw my poor brother led... Oh, that's right. So he's locked up forever. That's his brother, yeah, locked up forever, but he just locked up. He's not going to be killed. When I saw my poor brother led away to imprisonment, I attempted to leap down into the council chamber, desiring to intercede on his behalf, or at least bid him farewell. But I found that I had no motion of my own. I absolutely depended on the volition of my guide. who said in gloomy tones, "Heed not thy brother. Happily, thou shalt have ample time hereafter to condole with him. Follow me, because you're both gonna be locked up. That's what's gonna happen." Once more we ascended into space. "Hitherto," said the sphere, "I have shown you that naught save plain figures and their interiors. Now I must introduce you to solids, and reveal to you the plan upon which they are constructed. Behold this multitude of movable squares and cards. See, I put one on another, not as you suppose, northward of the other, but on the other. Now a second, now a third. See, I am building up a solid by a multitude of squares," which you can see in figure one. There's a bunch of squares stacked on top of each other, parallel to one another. Now the solid is complete, being as high as it is long and broad, and we call it a cube. And that would be figure two, I believe. "Pardon me, my lord," replied I, "but to my eye the appearance is as of an irregular figure whose inside is laid open to the view. In other words, methinks I see no solid, but a plane such as we infer in Flatland, only of an irregularity which betokens some monstrous criminal, so that the very sight of it is painful to my eye." "True," said the sphere. "It appears to you a plane, because you are not accustomed to light and shade and perspective. Just as in Flatland, a hexagon would appear a straight line to one who has not the art of sight of recognition. But in reality, it is a solid, as you shall learn by the sense of feeling." He then introduced me to the cube, and I found that this marvelous being was indeed no plane, but a solid, and that he was endowed with 6 plane sides and 8 terminal points called solid angles. And I remembered the saying of the spear that just such a creature as this would be formed by a square moving in space parallel to himself, and I rejoiced to think that so insignificant a creature as I could in some sense be called a progenitor of so illustrious an offspring. But still, I could not fully understand the meaning of what my teacher had told me concerning light and shade and perspective, and I did not hesitate to put my difficulties before him. Were I to give the sphere's explanation of these matters, distinct and clear though it was, it would be tedious to an inhabitant of space who knows these things already. Suffice it by his lucid statements and by changing the position of objects and lights and allowing me to feel several objects and even his own sacred person, he at last made all things clear to me, so that I could now readily distinguish between a circle and a sphere, and a plain figure and a solid. This was the climax, the paradise of my strange eventful history. Henceforth I have to relate the story of my miserable fall, most miserable, yet surely most undeserved. For why should the thirst for knowledge be aroused only to be disappointed and punished? My volition shrinks from the painful task of recalling my humiliation, yet, like a second Prometheus, I will endure this and worse, if by any means I may arouse in the interiors of plain and solid humanity a spirit of rebellion against the conceit which would limit our dimensions to 2 or 3 or any number short of infinity. Away, then, with all the personal considerations. Let me continue to the end as I begin, without further digressions or anticipations, pursuing the plain path of this passionate history. The exact facts, the exact words, and they are burnt in upon my brain, shall be set down without alteration of an iota, and let my readers judge between me and destiny. So that's right, chat. There might be 5, 6, 7, 10 dimensions out there. You don't know. You don't know. You're not nature. You can't tell nature what to do. They're there. They're there. They're there. Don't be so narrow minded, all right? This is such a fun book. I love this story. That first half was a little heavy on like everything. But yeah, this part of it, the adventure, our time with A Square, rather enjoyable. But he's about to get locked up for life. Bum 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 Meow, 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 meow. The sphere would willingly have continued his lessons by indoctrinating me in the conformation of all regular solids cylinders, cones, pyramids, pentahedrons, hexahedrons, decahedrons, and spheres. But I ventured to interrupt him. Not that I was wearied of knowledge. On the contrary, I thirsted for yet deeper and fuller draughts than he was offering me. Pardon me, said I. O thou wisdom, I must no longer address as the perfection of all beauty. But let me beg thee to vouchsafe thy servant a sight of thine interior. Sphere, my what? Thine interior, thy stomach, thy intestines. Sphere, whence this ill-timed impertinent request? And what mean you by saying that I am no longer the perfection of all beauty? My lord, your own wisdom has taught me to aspire to one even more great, more beautiful, and more closely approximate to perfection than yourself as you yourself, superior to all flatland forms, combine many circles in one, so doubtless there is one above you who combines many spheres into one supreme existence, surpassing even the solids of spaceland. And even as we, who are now in space, look down on flatland and see the insides of all things, so of a certainty there is yet above us some higher, purer region, whither thou dost surely propose to lead me, O thou wisdom I shall always call, everywhere and in all dimensions, my priest, philosopher, and friend. Some yet more spacious space, the more dimensionable dimensionality, from which vantage ground of which we shall look down together upon the revealed insides of solid things, and where thine own intestines and those of thy kindred spheres will I expose to the view of the poor wandering exile from Flatland, to whom so much has already been vouchsafed. Here. Pooh, stuff! Enough of this trifling. The time is short, and much remains to be done before you are fit to proclaim the gospel of three dimensions to your blind, benighted countrymen in Flatland. I Nay, gracious teacher, deny me not what I know it is in thy power to perform. Grant me but one glimpse of thine interior, and I am satisfied forever, remaining henceforth thy docile pupil, thy unemancipable, unemancipable, unemancipable slave, unemancipable slave, emancipable, unemancipable slave, ready to receive all thy teachings and to feed upon the words that fall from thy lips. Here. Well then, to content and silence you, let me say at once, I would shew you what you would wish if I could, but I cannot. Would you have me turn my stomach inside out to oblige you? But my lord has shown me that the intestines of all my countrymen in the land of two dimensions, by taking me with him into the land of three, what therefore more easy than now to take his servant on a second journey into the blessed region of the fourth dimension, where I shall look down with him once more upon this land of three dimensions, and see the inside of every three-dimensioned house, the secrets of the solid earth, the treasures of the mines in spaceland, and the intestines of every solid living creature, even of the noble and adorable sphere. But where is this land of four dimensions? I know not, but doubtless my teacher knows. Here, not I. There's no such land. The very idea of it is very utterly inconceivable. Not inconceivable, my lord, to me, and therefore still less inconceivable to my master. Nay, I despair not that even here in this region of three dimensions, your lordship's art to make the fourth dimension visible to me, just as in the land of two dimensions, my teacher's skill would fain have opened the eyes of his blind servant to the invisible presence of a third dimension, though I saw it not. Let me recall the past. Was I not taught below that when I saw a line and inferred a plane, I in reality saw a third unrecognized dimension, not the same as brightness, called height? And does it not follow that in this region, when I see a plane and infer a solid, I really see a fourth unrecognized dimension, not the same as color, but existent, though infinitesimal and incapable of measurement? And besides this, there is the argument from the analogy of figures. Here, analogy? Nonsense. What analogy? Your lordship tempts his servant to see whether he remembers the revelations imparted to him. Trifle not with me, my lord. I thirst for more knowledge. Doubtless we cannot see the other higher spaceland now because we have no eye in our stomachs. But just as there was in the realm of Flatland, though that poor puny lineland monarch could neither turn to left nor right to discern it, just as there was close at hand and touching my frame the land of three dimensions, though I, blind, senseless wretch, had no power to touch it, no eye in my interior to discern it, so of a surety there is a fourth dimension, which my lord perceives with the inner eye of thought, and that it must exist my lord himself has taught me, or he can have forgotten what he himself imparted to his servant. In one dimension, did not a moving point produce a line with two terminal points? In two dimensions, did not a moving line produce a square with four terminal points? In three dimensions, did not a moving square produce? Did not this eye of mine behold it? That blessed being, a cube with eight terminal points. In 4 dimensions, shall not a moving cube, alas for analogy, and alas for the progress of truth, if it not be so, shall not I say the motion of a divine cube result in still more divine organization with 16 terminal points? Behold the infallible confirmation of the series 24816. It is not this a geometrical progression? Is not this, if I might quote my Lord's own words, strictly according to analogy? Again, I was not taught by my Lord that as in a line there are two bounding points, and in a sphere there are four bounding lines. So in a cube there must be six bounding squares. Behold once more the confirming series 246. Is this not an arithmetical progression? And consequently, does it not of necessity follow that the more divine offspring of the divine cube in the land of 4 dimensions must have eight bounding cubes? And is this not also, as my Lord has taught me to believe, strictly according to analogy? So he's using all of these things that has been taught to him by this sphere and saying that we then must be able to extrapolate to even higher dimensions. And the sphere is like, no, come on, relax. You're getting ahead of yourself. We can visit the Flatland. We're here in Spaceland, and I saw in your dreams the land of Lineland. But a fifth dimension. Come on, you're crazy. Cut it out. Oh, my Lord, behold, I cast myself in faith upon conjecture, not knowing the facts, and I appeal to your lordship to confirm or deny my logical anticipations. If I am wrong, I yield and will no longer demand a fourth dimension. But if I am right, my lord will listen to reason. I ask, therefore, is it or is it not the fact that ere now your countrymen have often witnessed the descent of beings of a higher order than their own, entering closed rooms, even as your lordship entered mine, without the opening of doors or windows, and appearing and vanishing at will? On the reply to this question, I am ready to stake everything, deny it, and I am henceforth silent. Only vouchsafe an answer. So he's asking, has anyone ever come and preached the doctrine of 4 dimensions to anyone in Spaceland? Sphere, after a pause. It is reported so, but men are divided in opinion as to the facts. And even granting the facts, they explain them in different ways. And in any case, however great many may be the number of different explanations, no one has adopted or suggested the theory of a fourth dimension. Therefore, pray have done with this trifling and let us return to business. So he says it's not possible. They reported it, but there's no way that we can like figure this out. So forget about it. I was certain of it. I was certain that my anticipations would be fulfilled, and now have patience with me and answer me yet one more question, best of teachers. Those who have thus appeared, no one knows whence, and have returned, no one knows whither, have they also contracted their sections and vanished somehow into that more spacious space, whither I now entreat you to conduct me? Fear, moodily. They have vanished certainly, if they ever appeared, but most people say that these visions arose from the thought. You will not understand me from the brain, from the perturbed angularity of the seer. I say they so. Oh, believe them not. Or if indeed be so, that this other space is really Thoughtland, then take me to that blessed region where I, in thought, shall see the insides of all solid things. There, before my ravished eye, a cube moving in some altogether new direction, but strictly according to analogy, so as to make every particle of its interior pass through a new kind of space, with a wake of its own, shall create a still more perfect perfection than himself, with 16 terminal extra solid angles and 8 solid cubes for his perimeter. And once there, shall we stay our upward course? In that blessed region of fourth dimension, shall we linger on the threshold of the fifth and not enter therein? Ah, no, let us rather resolve that our ambitions shall soar with our corporeal ascent, then yielding to our intellectual onset. The gates of the sixth dimension shall fly open, after that a seventh, and then an eighth. How long I should have continued, I know not. In vain did the sphere, in the voice of thunder, reiterate his command of silence, and threaten me with the dirtiest penalties if I persisted. Nothing could stem the flood of my ecstatic aspirations. Perhaps I was to blame, but indeed I was intoxicated with the recent draughts of truth to which he himself had introduced me. However, the end was not long in coming. My words were cut short by a crash outside and a simultaneous crash inside me, which impelled me through space with a velocity that precluded speech. Down, 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 I was rapidly descending, and I knew that a return to Flatland was my doom. One glimpse, one last never to be forgotten glimpse I had of that dull, level wilderness, which was now to become my universe again, spread out before my eye, then a darkness, then a final all consummating thunder peal, and when I came to myself, I was once more a common creeping square in my study at home, listening to the peace cry of my approaching wife. So all his questions pissed off the sphere, and the sphere's like, "All right, it's time for you to go home. You're annoying me. Bye." Three more chapters left, chat. Almost there. Hey, wait a minute. No, I didn't. Okay. I forgot to do the color fix. Hello. That happened because for some reason, well, I have like an old Logitech, like 9,000 from like 15 years ago. The fact that it still works is one of the reasons why I haven't replaced it. You know, like good job, man. Good job. You're doing great. But the software is all really old and outdated, and so it doesn't save any of the like fixes that I do. Well, it does save them, but like for some reason it saves them but doesn't apply them until you go back into the software itself and reapply it. So every single time that I start stream, I have to go and do that to do the color change corrections. Chinese people are creating AI generated videos mocking Americans because of the tariff war. You seen all that that's going on, chat? The whole back and forth globally. Vicente, this guy is a mathematician on X Twitter. What value of X satisfies this expression? So 1 over X is greater than 1. X is less than 1. Mm-mm-mm. He likes to post like puzzles and stuff. 90% fail. 2 plus 2, 6. 12. 5 plus 5, 30. 9 plus 9. All right. Mm-mm-mm. Check out Vicente on X Twitter if you're into math sort of stuff, which you should be. Math is cool, chat. Math has always been very cool. I mean, it's a little bit tedious, but it's very, very cool. I don't care what you say. How the sphere encouraged me in a vision. Although I had less than a minute for reflection, I felt, by a kind of instinct, that I must conceal my experiences from my wife. Not that I apprehended at the moment any danger from her divulging my secret, but I knew that to any woman in Flatland, the narrative of my adventures must needs be unintelligible. So I endeavored to reassure her by some story invented for the occasion that I had accidentally fallen through the trapdoor of the cellar and had there lain stunned. The southward attraction in our country is so slight that even to a woman my tale necessarily appeared extraordinary and well nigh incredible. But my wife, whose good sense far exceeds that of the average of her sex, and who perceived that I was unusually excited, did not argue with me on the subject, but insisted that I was ill and required repose. I was glad of an excuse for retiring to my chamber to think quietly over what had happened. When I was at last by myself, a drowsy sensation fell on me, but before my eyes closed, I endeavored to reproduce the third dimension, and especially the process by which a cube is constructed through the motion of a square. It was not so clear as I could have wished, but I remembered that it must be upward, and yet not northward, as I determined steadfastly to retain these words as a clue which, if firmly grasped, could not fail to guide me to the solution. So mechanically repeating, like a charm, those words, upward, yet not northward, I fell into a sound, refreshing sleep. During my slumber, I had a dream. I thought I was once more by the side of the sphere, whose lustrous hue betokened that he had exchanged his wrath against me for his perfect placability. We were moving together towards a bright but infinitesimally small point, to which my master directed my attention. As we approached, methought there issued from it a slight humming noise, as from one of your Spaceland blue bottles, only less resonant by far, so slight indeed that even in the perfect stillness of the vacuum through which we soared, the sound reached not our ears till we checked our flight at a distance from it of something under 20 human diagonals. Look yonder, said my guide. In Flatland thou hast lived. Of Lineland thou hast received a vision. Thou hast soared with me to the heights of Spaceland. Now, in order to complete the range of thy experience, I conduct thee downward to the lowest depth of existence, even to the realm of Pointland, the abyss of no dimensions. Behold yon miserable creature. That point is a being like ourselves, but confined to the non dimensional gulf. He is himself his own world, his own universe. Of any other than himself, he can form no conception. He knows no length, no breadth, no height, for he has no experience of them. He has no cognizance even of the number two, nor he has the thought of plurality, for he is himself his one and all, being not really nothing. Yet mark his perfect self contentment, and hence learn this lesson that to be self contented is to be vile and ignorant, and that to aspire is better to be blindly and impotently happy. Now listen, the poor guy, this poor point who just has no way of ever even knowing about any of these things, like they're like, well, I mean, he's content, but it's better to know than not to know, which is technically true, chat. It's better to know. It's always better to know. What, said I, does this puny creature mean by it? Oh, he ceased. Oh, okay. So, and impotently happy. Now listen. He ceased, and there arose from the little buzzing creature a tiny, low, monotonous but distinct tinkling, as from one of your Spaceland phonographs, from which I caught these words: "Infinite beatitude of existence, it is, and there is none else besides it." What, said I, does the puny creature mean by it? He means himself, said the sphere. Have you not noticed before now that babies and babyish people who cannot distinguish themselves from the world speak of themselves in the third person? But hush. It fills all space, continued the little soliloquizing creature. And what it fills, it is. What it thinks, it that it utters, and what it utters, that it hears. It is itself its and it itself is thinker, utterer, hearer, thought, word, audition. It is the one, and yet the all in all. The happiness of being. Can you not startle the little thing out of its complacency? Said I. Tell it what it really is, as you told me. Reveal it to it the narrow limitations of Pointland, and lead it up to something higher. That is no easy task, said my master. Try you. Hereon, raising my voice to the uttermost, I addressed the point as follows. Silence, silence, contemptible creature. You call yourself the all in all, but you are the nothing. Your so called universe is a mere speck in a line, and a line is a mere shadow as compared with. Hush, hush, you have said enough, interrupted the sphere. Now listen and mark the effect of your harangue on the king of Pointland. The luster of the monarch, who beamed more brightly than ever upon hearing my words, shewed clearly that he retained his complacency, and I had hardly ceased when he took up his strain again. Ah, the joy of thought! What can it not achieve by thinking, its own thought coming to itself, suggestive of its disparagement, thereby to enhance its happiness? Sweet rebellion stirred up to the result in triumph. Ah, the divine creative power of the all in one. Ah, the joy of being. So he thinks that these thoughts caused it brought to itself so that it could, enhance its happiness, make it even greater than it was before. You see, said my teacher, how little your words have done. So far as the monarch understands them all, he accepts them as his own, for he cannot conceive of any other except himself, and plumes himself upon the variety of its thought. So it's glad that it has so broad a variety of different thoughts going on in its own head, of its thoughts as an instance of creative power. Let us leave this god of Pointland to the ignorant fruition of his omnipresence and omniscience. Nothing that you or I can do can rescue him from his self satisfaction. After this, as we floated gently back to Flatland, I could hear the mild voice of my companion pointing to the moral of my vision and stimulating me to aspire and to teach others to aspire. He had been angered at first, he confessed, by my ambition to soar to dimensions above the third. But since then, he had received fresh insight, and he was not too proud to acknowledge his error to a pupil. Then he proceeded to initiate me into mysteries yet higher than those I had witnessed, showing me how to construct extra solids by the motions of solids, and double extra solids by the motions of extra solids, and all strictly according to analogy, all by methods so simple, so easy as to be patent even to the female sex. So the sphere finally revealed to him all these secrets and more, and made it so very, very easy that even the isosceles triangles and the ladies of Flatland would be able to understand. Chapter 21: How I Tried to Teach the Theory of Three Dimensions to My Grandson, and with what success. This is probably where it all goes bad, chat. We know that he gets locked up in the asylum, but is it his grandson who rats him out? His grandson's the one who also suggested the possibility of Spaceland, suggesting that you take the square and you make it a construct with what is 6 points. Oh no, eight points, right? I awoke, rejoicing, and began to reflect on the glorious career before me. I would go forth, methought, at once, and evangelize to the whole of Flatland, even to the women and soldiers, should the gospel of three dimensions be proclaimed. I would begin with my wife. But he also knows the fact that the councils, all the council members were there at the beginning of the new millennium, telling people that anyone who proclaims this the gospel of three dimensions or of being from a wondrous different world were to be locked up or destroyed. So I mean, he's being a little too hopeful right here, right now, honestly. Just as I had decided on the plan of my operations, I heard the sound of many voices in the street commanding silence. Then followed a louder voice. It was a herald's proclamation. Listening attentively, I recognized the words of the resolution of the council, enjoining the arrest, imprisonment, or execution of anyone who should pervert the minds of the people by delusions and by professing to have received revelations from another world. There, see, there it is. Exactly. This guy is about to get wrecked or locked up. Locked up, definitely, as we know from the beginning of the book and also from the new introduction, which had told us that he'd been locked up for quite some time. I reflected, this danger was not to be trifled with. It would be better to avoid it by omitting all mention of my revelation, and by proceeding on the path of demonstration, which after all seemed so simple and so conclusive that nothing would be lost by discarding the former means. Upward, not northward, was the clue to the whole proof. It had seemed to me fairly clear before I fell asleep, and when I first awoke, fresh from my dream, it had appeared at patent as it had appeared as patent as arithmetic. But somehow it did not seem to me quite so obvious now. Though my wife entered the room opportunely just at that moment, I decided, after we had exchanged a few words of commonplace conversation, not to begin with her. Upward, not northward. So, but how can he demonstrate that, right? Exactly. We've already gone over the fact that there's just no way for him to go ahead and demonstrate this without the assistance of someone from Spaceland. If the sphere were able to come back and assist him, lift him up and down out of the plane, then maybe he might be able to convince people. But all on his own, they just don't have the capabilities to do this. My pentagonal sons were men of character and standing, and physicians of no mean reputation, but not great in mathematics, and in that respect unfit for my purpose. But it occurred to me that a young and docile hexagon with a mathematical turn would be a most suitable pupil. Why therefore not make my first experiment with my little precocious grandson, whose casual remarks on the meaning of three to the third had met with the approval of the sphere? Wait, why the whose casual remarks on the meaning of three to third had met with approval of the sphere. I'm reading this wrong. So that's a question. But remember, so the sphere was watching all of this and he said that he's not wrong, you know? But it occurred to me that a young and docile hexagon with a mathematical turn would be a most suitable pupil. Why, therefore, not make my first experiment with my precocious little grandson, whose casual remarks on the meaning of three to the third had met with the approval of the sphere? Discussing the matter with him, a mere boy, I should be in perfect safety, for he would know nothing of the proclamation of the council. Whereas I could not feel sure that my sons, so greatly did their patriotism and reverence for the circles predominate over the mere blind affection, might not feel compelled to hand me over to the prefect if they found me seriously maintaining a seditious heresy of the third dimension. But the first thing to be done was to satisfy in some way the curiosity of my wife, who naturally wished to know something of the reasons for which the circle had desired that mysterious interview, and of the means by which he had entered the house. Without entering into the details of the elaborate account I gave her, an account, I fear, not quite so consistent with truth as my readers in Spaceland might desire. Yes, we do love truth. That is true, Mr. A Square. We like the truth. I must be content with saying that I succeeded at last in persuading her to return quietly to her household duties without eliciting from me any reference to the world of three dimensions. This done, I immediately sent for my grandson, for, to confess the truth, I felt that all I had seen and heard was in some strange way slipping away from me, like the image of half grasped, tantalizing dream, and I longed to essay my skill in making a first disciple. So before he forgets all these amazing things that he's witnessed, he needs to get them out into the world and see if he can convince his grandson, at the very least, of the gospel of three dimensions. When my grandson entered the room, I carefully secured the door. Then, sitting down by his side and taking our mathematical tablets, or as you would call them, lines, I told him we would resume the lessons of yesterday. I taught him once more how a point, by motion in one dimension, produces a line, and how a straight line in two dimensions produces a square. After this, forcing a laugh, I said, "And now, you scamp, you wanted to make me believe that a square may, in the same way, by motion upward, not northward, produce another figure, a sort of extra square in three dimensions. Say that again, you young rascal." At this moment, we heard once more the heralds, oh yes, outside the streets, proclaiming the resolution of the council. Young though he was, my grandson, who was unusually intelligent for his age, and bred up in perfect reverence for the authority of the circles, took in the situation with an acuteness for which I was quite unprepared. He remained silent till the last words of the proclamation had died away, and then, bursting into tears, "Dear grandpapa," he said, "that was only my fun, and of course I meant nothing at all by it, and we did not know anything then about the new law, and I don't think I said anything about the third dimension, and I am sure I did not say one word about upward, not northward, for that would be such nonsense, you know. How could a thing move upward and not northward? Upward and not northward? Even if I were a baby, I could not be so absurd as that. How silly it is. Ha ha ha." So his grandson is afraid. He doesn't want to be locked up and destroyed. "Not at all silly," said I, losing my temper. "Here, for example, I take this square," and at that word I grasped the movable square, which was lying at hand, "and I move it, you see, not northward, but yes, I move it upward. That is to say, not northward, but I move it somewhere, not exactly like this, but somehow." Here I brought my sentence to an inane conclusion, shaking the square about in a purposeless manner, much to the amusement of my grandson, who burst out laughing louder than ever, and declared that I was not teaching him, but joking with him. And so saying, he unlocked the door and ran out of the room. Thus ended my first attempt to convert a pupil of the gospel of three dimensions. He was moving it around, but he couldn't move it up. How then I tried to diffuse the theory of three dimensions by other means and of the result. Here we go, chat. We're in the final stretch. Bum 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 ba dum da dum da 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 dum dum da 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 dum dim. My failure with my grandson did not encourage me to communicate my secret to others of my household. Yet neither was I led by it to despair of success. Only I saw that I must not wholly rely on the catchphrase upward, not northward, but must rather endeavor to seek a demonstration by setting before the public a clear view of the whole subject. And for this purpose, it seemed necessary to resort to writing. So I devoted several months in privacy to the composition of a treatise on the mysteries of three dimensions. Only with the view of evading the law if possible, I spoke not of a physical dimension, but of a thought land, whence, in theory, a figure could look down upon Flatland and see simultaneously the insides of all things, and where it was possible that there might be supposed to be exist a figure environed, as it were, with six squares and containing eight terminal points. But in writing this book, I found myself sadly hampered by the impossibility of drawing such diagrams as were necessary for my purpose. For of course, in our country of Flatland, there are no tablets but lines, and no diagrams but lines, all in one straight line and only distinguishable by difference of size and brightness, so that when I had finished my treatise, which I entitled Through Flatland to Thoughtland, I could not feel certain that many would understand any meaning. Meanwhile, my life was under a cloud. All pleasures palled upon me. All sights tantalized and tempted me to outspoken treason, because I could not but compare what I saw in two dimensions with what it really was if seen in three, and I could hardly refrain from making my comparisons aloud. I neglected my clients and my own business to give myself to the contemplation of the mysteries which I had once beheld, yet which I could impart to no one, and found daily more difficult to reproduce even before my own mental vision. One day, about 11 months after my return from Spaceland, I tried to see a cube with my eye closed, but failed. And though I succeeded afterwards, I was not then quite certain, nor have I been ever afterwards, that I had exactly realized the original. This made me more melancholy than before, and determined me to take some step. Yet what I knew not, though this made me more melancholy than before, and determined me to take some step. Yet what I knew not. I felt that I would have been willing to sacrifice my life for the cause if thereby I could have produced conviction. But if I could not convince my grandson, how could I convince the highest and most developed circles in the land? And yet at times my spirit was too strong for me, and I gave vent to dangerous utterances. Already, I was considered heterodox, if not treasonable, and I was keenly alive to the danger of my position. Nevertheless, I could not at times refrain from bursting out into suspicious or half seditious utterances, even among the highest polygonal and circular society. When, for example, the question arose about the treatment of those lunatics who said that they had received the power of seeing the insides of things, I would quote the saying of the ancient circle who declared that prophets and inspired people are always considered by the majority to be mad. And I could not help occasionally dropping such expressions as the eye that discerns the interior of things and the all seeing land. Once or twice I even let fall the forbidden terms, the third and fourth dimensions. At last, to complete the series of minor indiscretions, at a meeting of our local speculative society held at the palace of the prefect himself, some extremely silly person having read an elaborate paper exhibiting the precise reasons why Providence has limited the number of dimensions to two, and why the attribute of omnipotence is assigned to the Supreme alone, I so far forgot myself as to give an exact account of the whole of my voyage with the sphere into space, and to the assembly hall in our metropolis, and then to space again, and of my return home, and of everything that I had seen and heard in fact or vision. At first, indeed, I pretended that I was describing the imaginary experiences of a fictitious person, but my enthusiasm soon forced me to throw off all disguise, and finally, in a fervent peroration, I exhorted all my hearers to divest themselves of prejudice and to become believers in the third dimension. So he was over here, and so he was. They were giving the old spiel of like, oh yes, this is why two dimensions is what nature has provided with us, and omnipotence, and all the old talking points. And he could not stand for it. At this point, the A square says, nope. This listen to this tale, everybody. And so, like little by little, he revealed to them what had happened. And then little by little, he also made it known that it was actually him. He's the one who made it to the space land, and that you all, please, you must now come to believe and listen. Need I say that I was at once arrested and taken before the council? Nope. We figured A square. Next morning, standing in the very place where, but a very few months ago, the sphere had stood in my company, I was allowed to begin and to continue my narration unquestioned and uninterrupted. But from the first, I foresaw my fate, for the president, noting that a guard of the better sort of policemen was in attendance, of angularity little, if at all, under 55 degrees, ordered them to be relieved before I began my defense, by an inferior class of 2 degrees or 3 degrees. I knew only too well what that meant. I was to be executed or imprisoned, and my story was to be kept secret from the world by the simultaneous destruction of the officials who had heard it. And this being the case, the president desired to substitute the cheaper for the more expensive victims. After I had concluded my defense, the president, perhaps perceiving that some sort of junior circles had been moved by my evident earnestness, asked me two questions: whether I could indicate the direction which I meant when I used the words upward, not northward, and two, whether I could, by any diagrams or descriptions other than the enumeration of imaginary sides and angles, indicate the figure I was pleased to call a cube. I declared that I could say nothing more, and that I must commit myself to the truth, whose cause would surely prevail in the end. All we can do sometimes is we just need to, the truth finds a way. And you know what? A square was just one pawn of the truth. Who knows if Flatlanders will ever come to know the truth of three dimensions and even greater, four or five infinite dimensions? Who knows? But every millennia, a sphere is probably going to come down and make this revelation. And what it's going to take is a little bit of change, a change in the mentalities of the people existing in the world, right? Or maybe an accident. Maybe the sphere does something not intended, and that causes other people to realize, maybe there's more strange things out there in the universe than we realize. Hmm. So poor A square, but the what is it? The path to heaven is paved with, or the path to hell is paved with good intentions. So it's equal opposites, same difference. It's better to know, and so hopefully someday they find out. But yeah, until they actually, as a society, acknowledge all of these things, the gospel of three dimensions, a bunch of poor innocent polygons are going to be imprisoned, possibly killed, because they can't, because they won't deny the truth. Good for them. Good for you, A square. Uh, what would it be? ally of the truth. That's what it is. There it is. Yep. The president replied that he quite concurred in my sentiment that I could not do better. I must be sent. The president replied that he quite concurred in my sentiment and that I could not do better. I must be sentenced to perpetual imprisonment, but if the truth intended that I should emerge from the prison and evangelize the world, the truth might be trusted to bring that result to pass. Exactly. See, we don't know what will happen, you know? But if the truth is the truth, then maybe it'll find its way out to the people. Meanwhile, I should be subjected to no discomfort that was not necessary to preclude escape, and unless I forfeited my privilege by misconduct, I should be occasionally permitted to see my brother who had preceded me to my prison. 7 years have elapsed, and I am still a prisoner, and if I accept the occasional visits of my brother, debarred from all companionship save that of my jailers. My brother is one of the best squares, just, sensible, cheerful, and not without fraternal affection. Yet I confess that my weekly interviews, at least in one respect, caused me the bitterest pain. He was present when the sphere manifested himself in the council chamber. He saw the sphere's changing sections. He heard the explanation of the phenomena then given to the circles. Since that time, scarcely a week has passed during 7 whole years without his hearing from me a repetition of the part I played in that manifestation, together with ample descriptions of all the phenomena in Spaceland and the arguments for the existence of solid things, derivable from an analogy. Yet I take shame to be forced to confess it. My brother has not yet grasped the nature of the third dimension, and frankly avows his disbelief in the existence of a sphere. That's sad. His brother was there. His brother is the victim of all of this, and he can't even grasp the concept of a space land, of a third dimension. Hence, I am absolutely destitute of comforts, and for aught that I can see, the millennial revelation has been made to me for nothing. Prometheus up in Spaceland was bound for bringing down fire for mortals, but I, poor Flatland Prometheus, lie here in prison for bringing down nothing to my countrymen. Yet I exist in the hope that these memoirs, in some manner, I know not how, may find their way to the minds of humanity in some dimension, and may stir up a race of rebels who shall refuse to be confined to limited dimensionality. That is the hope of my brighter moments. Alas, it is not always so. Heavily weighs on me at times the burdensome reflection that I cannot honestly say I am confident as to the exact shape of the once seen, oft regretted cube. And in my nightly visions, the mysterious precept, upward, not northward, haunts me like a soul devouring sphinx. It is part of this martyrdom which I endure for the cause of the truth that there are seasons of mental weakness when cubes and spheres flit away into the background of scarce possible existences, when the land of three dimensions seems almost as visionary as the land of one or none. Nay, when even this hard wall that bars me from my freedom, these very tablets on which I am writing, and all the substantial realities of Flatland itself appear no better than the offspring of a diseased imagination, or the baseless fabric of a dream. Poor guy. The end. The baseless fabric of my vision melted into thin air. Such stuff as dreams are made of. The end of Flatland. What a good book. What a freaking good book. I love this book so much. It just makes you think. It just makes you think so much, you know? And so, yeah, maybe he will never rescue Flatland. But there's still, as the introduction taught us, plenty of good that his memoirs will do for us here in Spaceland, where breakthroughs in computing and technology have allowed us to theorize and even visualize some of these higher dimensions that potentially exist out there. Because we still upward, it would be inward. Would it be in? So it can't be upward because that's northward, upward. Or would the next direction be? Would it be on the inside? If we would need an eyeball in our on our insides, right? That's the way that Flatlanders would be able to see Spaceland if they had a eyeball in their stomach. So somewhere, so we would be splayed open. You would be able to see all of our organs, our different systems, our digestive stuff, all our veins, right? Our veins could look out into the world. What would they see? Maybe a new dimension. Interesting. So there, and that's the beauty of Flatland. It's there to make you think, you know. It's there to make you consider possibilities, and through analogy, because like we're able to see these things occur like in these lower dimensions. Why wouldn't the cube be able to turn into a super cube or an extra cube or whatever they might want to call it, an extra cube. So cool, so interesting. I freaking love it. And I mean, I just love math in general. I mean, I might not like do math all the time like a good boy, but math is important, chat. I don't care what you say. Okay, and then we're gonna do a bonus one. This one I don't actually have a copy of, but it exists out there. This one's by Isaac Asimov, called "The Last Question." This one's a really good one, chat. This one's really good. So this one's a shorter one. So we're gonna get through it all in one go right here, right now. Okay, this one, "The Last Question" by Isaac Asimov. Okay, and I mean, I'm sure you know who he is, but we'll give you a little bit of a background check. He's a really, really famous science fiction writer, one of the greatest. He was an American writer and professional of biochemistry at Boston University. During his lifetime, he was considered one of the big three science fiction writers with Heinlein and Arthur C. Clarke. A prolific writer, he wrote or edited more than 90,000 letters, more than 500 books, also wrote an estimated 90,000 letters and postcards. Best known for his hard science fiction, Asimov also wrote mysteries and fantasies, as well as science and other nonfiction. His most famous work is the Foundation series, the first three books, which won the one-time Hugo Award for Best All-Time Series in 1966. The other major series are the Galactic Empire series and the Robot series. The Galactic Empire novels are set in the much earlier history of the same fictional universe as Foundation series. Later, with Foundation and Earth, 1986, he linked the distant future to the Robot series, creating a unified future history for his works. So he went and he made a timeline for all of his stories. There's also a really good one called The End of Eternity, but I think that one's longer. I don't think we're going to get to it today. And this one is supposed to be like a prequel to even all of the Foundation stuff. Like the eternity becomes infinity. I think I will do End of Eternity too. Now that I'm thinking about it, because yeah, I really love this story too. How many pages? But for today, we're gonna finish with the last question. It's 191 pages, so yeah, it'll be a longer stream, probably a couple of streams. It seems like we can get through like what 100 pages in like a couple of hours, so that'll be like what 2 hours, three to 4 hours. Okay, there's also ebook version. But yes, End of Eternity coming up. A really, really good story. I really, really like it, and I'm glad that I went and looked up Last Question so that we can like also think about other things like that. Here we go. But yes, so he's very, very well known in terms of like science fiction, foundations, very, very popular series of books. He also wrote I, Robot, which was adapted into the movie. And this is the little synopsis of Foundation, the first book. Called forth to stand on trial on transfer for allegations of treason for foreshadowing the decline of the Galactic Empire, Seldon explains that his science of psychohistory foresees many alternatives, all of which result in the Galactic Empire eventually falling. If humanity follows its current path, the Empire will fall, and 30,000 years of turmoil will overcome humanity before a second Empire arises. However, an alternate path allows for intervening years to be only 1,000 if Seldon is allowed to collect the most intelligent minds and create a compendium of all human knowledge entitled Encyclopedia Galactica. The board is still wary, but allows Seldon to assemble whomever he needs, provided he and the encyclopedists are exiled to a remote planet, Terminus. Seldon agrees to these terms and secretly establishes a second foundation, of which almost nothing is known, which he says is at the opposite end of the galaxy. This is going to tell the whole story. So we're just reading that one chapter. All right, but here we go. This is the last question. Are you ready, chat? We have a little bit more a biography of Isaac Asimov here before we get into it. By Isaac Asimov. Isaac Asimov was the most prolific science fiction author of all time. In 50 years, he averaged a new magazine article, short story, or book every 2 weeks, and most of that on a manual typewriter. Asimov thought that The Last Question, first copyrighted in 1956, was his best short story ever. It is so good. It's so good, Chad. It's so good. Even if you do not have the background in science to be familiar with all concepts presented here, the ending packs more impact than any other book that I've ever read. Don't read the end of the story first. This is by far my. Oh, so this is a little commentary by the whoever the editor is. This is by not editor, but whoever is like hosting this website, cmu.edu Gambrossi. This is by far my favorite story of all those I have written. Oh no, this is Isaac Asimov himself. After all, I undertook to tell several trillion years of human history in the space of a short story, and I leave it to you as to how well I succeeded. I also undertook another task, but I won't tell you what that was, lest I spoil the story for you. It is a curious fact that innumerable readers have asked me if I wrote this story. They seem never to remember the title of the story, or, for sure, the author, except for the vague thought that it might be me. But of course, they never forget the story itself, especially the ending. The idea seems to drown out everything, and I'm satisfied that it should. All right, here we go, chat. All right. The last question was asked for the first time, half in jest, on May 21st, 2061, at a time when humanity first stepped into the light. The question came about as a result of a $5 bet over highballs, and it happened this way, which is so cool. I mean, chat, like, here we are in the world in this stupid, like, point in history where dumb assholes are over there ruining things. When we could be dreaming of like potentials out there in the stars, and obviously, like getting out to the stars, there's also the potential for humanity to go and fuck everything up as we are, known to do. But I mean, we need to explore the possibilities, right? I think that if we could come together as a species to accomplish this goal, maybe that would also unify us in a way where exploring the universe wouldn't be such a horrible thing. But we won't know that, and we won't know for some time. We might not even know, chat, because we'll probably be dead if we ever do make it out to the rest of the universe. Just the way that it's happening so slowly. It might happen way, way long after all of us are gone, or it may happen like a couple years after we're gone. Who knows, chat? I just think that it's great that we hold the possibility of hope that we are able to escape this planet which is doomed to destruction, and make a new home for ourselves, make new possibilities, find new ways of being out there in the universe. But that's just me. Love you, chat. Love you. Love you. You're great, chat. You're amazing. You're fantastic. Alexander Adel and Bertram Lupov were two of the faithful attendants of Multivac. As well as any human beings could, they knew what lay behind the cold, clicking, flashing face, miles and miles of face, of that giant computer. They had at least a vague notion of the general plan of relays and circuits that had long since grown past the point where any single human could possibly have a firm grasp of the whole. Multivac was a self-adjusting and self-correcting. It had to be, for nothing human could adjust and correct it quickly enough or even adequately enough. So Adele and Lupov attended the monstrous giants only lightly and superficially. Yet, as well as any men could, they fed it data, adjusted questions to its needs, and translated the answers that were issued. Certainly, they and all others like them were fully entitled to share in the glory that was Multivac's. For decades, Multivac had helped to design the ships and plot the trajectories that enabled man to reach the moon, Mars, and Venus. But past that, Earth's poor resources could not support the ships. Too much energy was needed for the long trips. Earth exploited its coal and uranium with increasing efficiency, but there was only so much of both. Told you, chat. But slowly, Multivac learned enough to answer deeper questions more fundamentally. And on May 14th, 2061, we're almost there to the day the last question was answered. That was May 21st. But on May 14th, 2061,
What had been theory became fact. The energy of the sun was stored, converted, and utilized directly on a planet-wide scale. All of the Earth turned off burning coal, its fissioning uranium, and flipped the switch that connected all of it to a small station 1 mile in diameter, circling the Earth at a distance of half the distance of the Moon. All Earth ran by invisible beams of sun power. See the possibilities, the things that technology can do besides just blowing each other up on this dumb spec. I mean, I say dumb, like just in like the, being hyperbolic right now. This is a beautiful planet. It's an amazing universe that we exist in. But for this, all the dumb, stupid things that these warmongering idiots desire to do and just blast each other into freaking nothing. But we could be harnessing the power of the sun and making life more livable, better for everybody instead of just select few. Nope, not gonna happen. Ain't gonna happen. The rich get richer, the powerful stay powerful, and they will do nothing to give up any of the power they have acquired. Right? Sad. All Earth ran by invisible beams of sun power. 7 days had not sufficed to dim the glory of it, and Adele and Lupov finally managed to escape from the public functions and to meet in quiet where no one would think of looking for them, in the deserted underground chambers, where portions of the mighty buried body of Multivac showed, unattended, idling, sorting data with contented lazy clickings. Multivac, too, had earned its vacation, and the boys appreciated that. They had no intention, originally, of disturbing it. They had brought a bottle with them, and their only concern at the moment was to relax in the company of each other and the bottle. It's amazing when you think of it, said Adele. His broad face had lines of weariness in it, and he stirred his drink slowly with the glass rod, watching the cubes of ice slur clumsily about. All the energy we can possibly ever use for free. Enough energy if we want to draw on it to melt all Earth into a big drop of impure liquid iron, and still never miss the energy so used. All the energy we could ever use, forever, and forever. Lupov cocked his head sideways. He had a trick of doing that when he wanted to be contrary, and he wanted to be contrary now, partly because he had to carry the ice and glassware. Not forever, he said. Oh hell, just about forever, till the sun runs down, Bert. That's not forever. All right then, billions and billions of years, 10 billion maybe. Are you unsatisfied? Lupov put his fingers through his thinning hair as though to reassure himself that some was still left, and sipped gently at his own drink. 10 billion years isn't forever. Well, it will last our time, won't it? So would the coal and uranium. All right, but now we can hook up each individual space station to the solar station, and it can go to Pluto and back 1,000,000 times without ever worrying about fuel. You can't do that on coal and uranium. Ask Multivac if you don't believe me. I don't have to ask Multivac. I know that. Then stop running down what Multivac's done for us, said Adele, blazing up. It did all right. Who says it didn't? What I say is that a sun won't last forever. That's all I'm saying. We're safe for 10 billion years, but then what? Lupov pointed a slightly shaky finger at the other. And don't say we'll switch to another sun. See, the things that we don't think about, the things we don't consider, but we have Lupov here over, like, yes, it's great. It's fantastic that we've achieved this. What next? There was silence for a while. Adele put his glass to his lip only occasionally, and Lupov's eyes slowly closed. They rested. Then Lupov's eyes snapped open. You're thinking we'll switch to another sun when ours is done, aren't you? I'm not thinking. Well, I mean, it's the obvious conclusion to reach, right? We just go find a new sun. Sure you are. You're weak on logic. That's the trouble with you. You're like the guy in the story who was caught in a sudden shower and who ran to a grove of trees and got under one. He wasn't worried, you see, because he figured when one tree got wet through, he would just go get under another one. I get it, said Adele. Don't shout. When the sun is done and the other stars when the sun is done, the other stars will be gone too. Damn right they will, muttered Lupov. It had a beginning in the original cosmic explosion, whatever that was, and it'll all have an end when all the stars run down. Some run down faster than others. Hell, the giants won't last 100 million years. The sun will last 10 billion years, and maybe the dwarves will last 200 billion for all the good they are. But just give them a trillion years and everything will be dark. Entropy has increased to maximum. That's all. I know all about entropy, said Adele, standing on his dignity. The hell you do. I know as much as you do. Then you know everything's got to run down someday. All right. Who says they won't? You did, you poor sap. You said we had all the energy we needed forever. You said forever. It was Adele's turn to be contrary. Maybe we can build things up again someday, he said. Never. Why not someday? Never. Ask Multivac. You ask Multivac. I dare you. $5 says it can't be done. And here we are. The last question. All done on a $5 bet, but also it's like stacked on top of all this other conjectures, like the fact that what happens when the sun runs out? What do we do? Adele was just drunk enough to try, just sober enough to be able to phrase the necessary symbols and operations into a question which, in words, might have corresponded to this: will mankind one day, without the net expenditure of energy, be able to restore the sun to its full youthfulness, even after it had died of old age? Are we able to create a new sun? That's the question. Or maybe it could be put more simply like this: how can the net amount of entropy of the universe be massively decreased? Multivac fell dead and silent. The slow flashing of lights ceased. The distant sounds of clicking relays ended. Then, just as the frightened technicians felt they could hold their breath no longer, there was a sudden springing to life of the teletype attached to that portion of Multivac. 5 words were printed: insufficient data for meaningful answer. No bet, whispered Lupov. They left hurriedly. By the next morning, the two, plagued with throbbing head and cottony mouth, had forgotten the incident. Gerard and Geraldine and Gerardette the first and second watched the starry picture in the visiplate change as the passage through hyperspace was completed in its non-time lapse. At once, the even powdering of stars gave way to the predominance of a single bright shining disk the size of a marble centered on the viewing screen. That's X-23, said Gerard confidently, his thin hands clamped tightly behind his back and the knuckles whitened. The little Geradettes, both girls, had experienced the hyperspace passage for the first time in their lives and were self-conscious over the momentary sensation of inside-outness. They buried their giggles and chased one another wildly about their mothers, screaming, "We reached X-23! We reached X-23! We—" "Quiet, children," said Geraldine sharply. "Are you sure, Gerard?" "What is there to be but sure?" asked Gerard, glancing up at the bulge of featureless metal just under the ceiling. It ran the length of the room, disappearing through the wall at either end. It was just as long as the ship. Gerard scarcely knew a thing about the thick rod of metal, except that it was called microvac, that one asked it questions if one wished, that if one did not, it still had its tasks of guiding the ship, that if one did not, it still had its task of guiding the ship to the pre-ordered destination. So if they didn't ask it, that sentence is a little wild. But I mean, I don't write the most perfect sentences, so who am I to judge? Jared scarcely knew a thing of the thick metal rod, except that it was called microvac, and that one asked questions if one wished. That if one did not, it still had its task of guiding the ship to a pre-ordered destination, of feeding on energies from various subgalactic power stations, of computing the equations for the hyperspatial jumps. Gerard and his family had only to wait and live in the comfortable residence quarters of the ship. Someone had once told Gerard that the AC at the end of microvac stood for automatic computer in ancient English, but he was on the edge of forgetting even that. So here we are, even further in the future. They've completed a hyperspace jump. They're visiting places outside of the solar system. And they're forgetting things. They're forgetting things like where microvac came from, who used to be these multivac, way back when. They don't know what computers are anymore. They don't know how they're created. They just know that they use them. Geraldine's eyes were moist as she watched the visiplate. "I can't help it. I feel funny about leaving Earth." "Why, for Pete's sake?" demanded Gerard. "We had nothing there. We'll have everything on X-23. You won't be alone. You won't be the pioneer. There are over 1 million people on the planet already. Good Lord, our great-grandchildren will be looking for new worlds because X-23 will be overcrowded." Then, after a reflective pause, "I tell you, it's a lucky thing the computers worked out interstellar travel the way the race is growing." I know, said Geraldine miserably. Gerardette, the first, said promptly, "Our microvac is the best microvac in the world." "I think so too," said Gerard, tussling her hair. It was a nice feeling to have a microvac of your own, and Gerard was glad he was part of this generation and no other. In his father's youth, the only computer had been tremendous machines taking up hundreds square miles of land, the multivac. There was only one to a planet. Planetary ACs, they were called. They had been growing in size steadily for thousands of years, and then all at once came refinement. In the place of transistors had come molecular valves so that even the largest planetary AC could be put into a space only half the volume of a spaceship. Gerard felt uplifted, as he always did when he thought that his own personal microvac was many times more complicated than the ancient and primitive multivac that had first tamed the sun, and almost as complicated as the Earth's planetary AC, the largest, that had first solved the problem of hyperspatial travel and had made trips to the stars possible. "So many stars, so many planets," sighed Geraldine, busy with her own thoughts. "I suppose families will be going to new planets forever, the way we are now." "Not forever," said Gerard with a smile. It would all stop someday, but not for billions of years, many billions. Even the stars run down, Entropy must increase." What's entropy, Daddy? Shrilled Geraldette II. Entropy, sweet little sweets, is just a word which means the amount of running down of the universe. Everything runs down, you know, like your little walkie-talkie robot. Remember? Can't you just put a new power unit like with my robot? The stars are all power units, dear. Once they're gone, there are no more power units. Geraldette the First at once set up a howl. Don't let them, Daddy! Don't let the stars run down! Now look what you've done, whispered Geraldine, exasperated. How was I to know it would have frightened them? Gerard whispered back. Ask the microvac, wailed Geraldette the First. Ask him how to turn the stars on again. Go on, said Geraldine. It will quiet them down. Geraldette the Second was beginning to cry also. Gerard shrugged. Now, honeys, I'll ask Microvac. Don't worry, he'll tell us. He asked the Microvac, adding quickly, print the answer. Jared cupped the strip or the thin cellufilm and said cheerfully, See, now the Microvac says it will take care of everything when the time comes, so don't worry. Geraldine said, And now, children, it's time for bed. We'll be in our new homes soon. Gerard read the words on the cellufilm again before destroying it. Insufficient data for a meaningful answer. He shrugged and looked at the visit plate. X-23 was just ahead. This is such a good story. So freaking good. So good. VJ23X of Lameth stared into the black depths of the three-dimensional, small-scale map of the galaxy and said, Are we ridiculous? I wonder in being so concerned about this matter. MQ17J of Nikron shook his head. I think not. You know the galaxy will be filled in 5 years at the present rate of expansion. Both seemed in their early 20s. Both were tall and perfectly formed. Still, said VJ23X, I hesitate to submit a pessimistic report to the Galactic Council. I wouldn't consider any other kind of report. Stir them up a bit. We've got to stir them up. VJ23X sighed. Space is infinite. 100 billion galaxies are there for the taking. More. 100 billion is not infinite, and it's getting less infinite all the time. Consider, 20,000 years ago, mankind first solved the problem of utilizing stellar energy, and a few centuries later, interstellar travel became possible. It took mankind 1,000,000 years to fill one small world, and then only 15,000 years to fill the rest of the galaxy. Now the population doubles every 10 years, VJ23X interrupted. We can thank immortality for that. Very well, immortality exists and we have to take it into account. I admit it has seamy sides, this immortality. The Galactic AC has solved many problems for us, but solving the problem of preventing old age and death, it has undone all its other solutions. You wouldn't want to abandon life, I suppose. Not at all, snapped MQ17J, softening at once to, Not yet. I'm by no means old enough. How old are you? 223. And you? I'm still under 200, but to get back to my point, population doubles every 10 years. Once this galaxy is filled, we'll have another filled in 10 years, another 10 years, and we'll have filled 2 more, another decade, 4 more. In 100 years, we'll have filled 1,000 galaxies, in 1,000 years, 1,000,000 galaxies, in 10,000 years, the entire known universe. Then what? VJ23X said, as a side issue, there's the problem of transportation. I wonder how many sun power units it will take to move galaxies of individuals from one galaxy to the next. A very good point. Already mankind consumes 2 sun power units per year. Most of it's wasted. After all, our own galaxy alone pours out 1,000 sun power units a year, and we only use 2 of those. Granted, but even with 100% efficiency, we only stave off the end. Our energy requirements are going up in a geometric progression even faster than our population. We'll run out of energy sooner than we run out of galaxies. A good point. A very good point. We'll just have to build new stars out of interstellar gas, or out of dissipated heat, asked MQ17J sarcastically. There may be some way to reverse entropy. We ought to ask Galactic AC. VJ23X was not really serious, but MQ17J pulled out his AC contact from his pocket and placed it on the table before him. I have half a mind to, he said. It's something the human race will have to face someday. He stared somberly at his small AC contact. It was only 2 inches cubed and nothing in itself, but was connected through hyperspace with great galactic AC that served all mankind. Hyperspace considered it was an integral part of the galactic AC. MQ17J paused to wonder if someday in his immortal life he would get to see the galactic AC. It was on a little world of its own, a spider webbing of force beams holding the matter within which surges of submesons took the place of the old clumsy molecular valves. Yet despite its sub-etheric workings, the galactic AC was known to be full 1,000 feet across. MQ17J asked suddenly of his AC contact, Can entropy ever be reversed? VJ23X looked startled and said at once, Oh, say, I didn't really mean to have you ask that. Why not? We both know entropy can't be reversed. You can't turn smoke and ash back into a tree. Do you have trees on your world? Asked MQ17J. The sound of the galactic AC startled them into silence. Its voice came thin and beautiful out of the small AC contact on the desk. It said, There is insufficient data for a meaningful answer, VJ23X said. See? The two men thereupon returned to the question of the report they were to make to the Galactic Council.
15,000 more years have passed. Humanity has spread even further out into the stars. They're filling up entire galaxies, and it's only a matter of time before they run out of the energy that will allow them to continue their expansion. So the question is, will we someday be able to create stars of our own? That's what they're trying to learn from these different ACs. Multivac has become even smaller and smaller through the millennia and just through the ages, eons. So now it's like a small, tiny little thing that they're able to use. Where do we go next? Z Prime's mind spanned the new galaxy with faint interest in the countless twists of stars that powdered it. He had never seen this one before. Would he ever see them all? So many of them, each with its loads of humanity. A load that was almost a dead weight. More and more, the real essence of man was to be found out here in space. Minds, not bodies. The immortal bodies remained back on the planets in suspension over the eons. Sometimes they aroused from material activity, but that was growing rarer. Few new individuals were coming into existence to join the incredibly mighty throng, but what mattered? There was little room in the universe for new individuals. Z Prime was roused out of his reverie upon coming across the wispy tendrils of another mind. I am Z Prime, said Z Prime, and you? I am D sub 1. Your galaxy? We call it only the galaxy, and you? We call ours the same. All men call their galaxy, and nothing more. Why not? True, since all galaxies are the same. Not all galaxies. One particular galaxy, the race of man, must have originated. That make the difference, Z Prime said. On which one? I cannot say. The universal AC would know. Shall we ask him? I am suddenly curious. Z Prime's perceptions broadened until the galaxies themselves shrank and became a new, more diffuse powdering on a much larger background. So many hundreds of billions of them, with all their immortal beings, all carrying their load of intelligences with minds that drifted freely through space. And yet one of them was unique among them all in being the original galaxy. One of them had, in its vague and distant past, a period when it was the only galaxy populated by man. What a unique place to be in history, right, chat? Z Prime was consumed with curiosity to see this galaxy, and he called out, Universal AC! On which galaxy did mankind originate? The Universal AC heard, for on every world and throughout space, it had receptors ready, and on each receptor led through hyperspace to some unknown point where the Universal AC kept itself aloof. Z Prime knew only of one man whose thoughts had penetrated within sensing distance of the Universal AC, and he had reported only a shining globe 2 feet across, difficult to see. But how can that be all of Universal AC? Z Prime had asked. Most of it, had been the answer, is in hyperspace. In what form it is there, I cannot imagine. Talking about other dimensions, chat, it's all related to each other. All science fiction, mathematics, the beauty of the universe and everything, music, the humming of the strings, it's all tied together, chat. And so he saw the sphere, but he didn't see the extra sphere, whatever it is that it exists as. Maybe it's even like some sort of maybe it found a way to become organic in its own way, who knows. We will never know the answer to this because that's not why we're here. But how can we nor could anyone, for they had long since passed, Z Prime knew, when any man had any part in the making of a universal AC. Each universal AC designed and constructed its successor. Each, during its existence of 1,000,000 years or more, accumulated the necessary data to build a better and more intricate, more capable successor in which its own store of data and individuality would be submerged. The universal AC interrupted Z Prime's wandering thoughts, not with words, but with guidance. Z Prime's mentality was guided into the dim sea of galaxies, and one in particular, enlarged into stars. A thought came, infinitely distant, but infinitely clear. This is the original galaxy of man, but it was the same after all, the same as any other, and Lee Prime stifled his disappointment. D sub 1, whose mind had accompanied the other, had said suddenly, and this is one of the stars, and is one of these stars the original star of man? The universal AC said, man's original star has gone nova. It is a white dwarf. Did the men upon it die? Asked Lee Prime, startled and without thinking.
The universal AC said, "A new world, as in such cases, was constructed for their physical bodies in time." "Yes, of course," said Z Prime, but a sense of loss overwhelmed him even so. His mind released its hold on the original galaxy of men, let it spring back and lose itself among the blurred pins and points. He never wanted to see it again. D1 said, what is wrong? The stars are dying. The original star is dead. They must all die. Why not? Remember, that was the original question because they said that we had enough energy forever, forever and ever and forever and ever and ever, and that star's already dead. And so how much time is left? Probably still like billions of years, obviously, but at some point, even then, everything has to die. They have to go. They have to go. They must all die. Why not? But when all energy is gone, our bodies will finally die, and you and I with them. It will take billions of years. I do not wish it to happen even after billions of years. Universal AC, how may stars be kept from dying? D sub 1 said in amusement, "You're asking how entropy might be reversed in direction." And the Universal AC answered, "There is as yet insufficient data for a meaningful answer." Z Prime's thoughts fled back to his own galaxy. He gave no further thought to D sub 1, whose body might be waiting on a galaxy a trillion light years away, or on the other stars next to Z Prime's own. It didn't matter. Unhappily, Z Prime began collecting interstellar hydrogen out of which to build a small star of his own. If the stars must someday die, at least some could yet be built. So that's interesting. These people have actually achieved the ability these things in the interstellar like medium, and he's trying to create his own star. I wonder if that's gonna work. I wonder if we're gonna see more. I don't remember if we're gonna see more of that, but I wonder if we're gonna see more of that in the story. There's not much left here at this point. It's a pretty short one. So that's where we left mankind, and here we are again. Man considered with himself, for in a way, man mentally was one. He consisted of a trillion, trillion, trillion ageless bodies. Oh, so this is mankind having achieved the singularity. Man considered with himself, for in a way, man mentally was one. He consisted of a trillion, trillion, trillion ageless bodies, each in its place, each resting quiet and incorruptible, each cared for by perfect automatons, equally incorruptible, while the minds of all bodies freely melted one into the other, indistinguishable. Man said, "The universe is dying." Man looked about at the dimming galaxies. The giant stars, spendthrifts, were gone long ago, back in the dimmest of the dim far past. Almost all stars were white dwarfs fading to the end. New stars have been built of the dust between stars, some by natural processes, some by man himself. There it is, see? And those were going too. So even more time has passed. So even though that guy was successful in creating a few stars, but even those are starting to die too. White dwarfs might yet be crushed together, and of the mighty forces so released, new stars built, but only one star for every 1,000 white dwarfs destroyed, and those would come to an end too. Man said, "Carefully husbanded as directed by the cosmic AC, the energy that is even yet left in all the universe will last for billions of years." "But even so," said man, "eventually it will all come to an end. However, it may be husbanded, however stretched out, the energy once expended is gone and cannot be restored. Entropy must increase forever to the maximum." Man said, "Can entropy not be reversed? Let us ask the cosmic AC." The cosmic AC surrounded them, but not in space. Not a fragment of it was in space. It was in hyperspace and made of something that was neither matter nor energy. The question of its size and nature no longer had meaning in any terms that man could comprehend. "Cosmic AC," said man, "how may entropy be reversed?" The cosmic AC said, "There is as yet insufficient data for a meaningful answer." Man said, "Collect additional data." The cosmic AC said, "I will do so. I have been doing so for 100 billion years. My predecessors and I have been asked this question many times. All the data I have remains insufficient." "Will there come a time," said man, "when the data will be sufficient, or is the problem insoluble in all conceivable circumstances?" The cosmic AC said, "No problem is insoluble in all conceivable circumstances." Man said, "When will you have enough data to answer the question?" The cosmic AC said, "There is as yet insufficient data for a meaningful answer." "Will you keep working on it?" asked man. Cosmic AC said, "I will." Man said, "We shall wait." So at this point in human history, mankind is just a conglomerate of a million bodies, minds spread across the entire known universe. All of it has been conquered.
and we're running out of energy and stars. And even though man knows that we can still make this energy last for a bit longer, man also knows that at some point it will all come to an end, as all things do at some point. The stars and galaxies died and stuffed out, and space grew black after 10 trillion years of running down. One by one, man fused with AC, each physical body losing its mental identity in a manner that was somehow not a loss, but a gain. Man's last mind paused before fusion, looking over a space that included nothing but the dregs of one last dark star, and nothing besides but incredibly thin matter, agitated randomly by the tag ends of heat wearing out asymptotically to the absolute zero. A man said, AC, is this the end? Can this chaos not be reversed into the universe once more? Can that not be done? AC said, there is as yet insufficient data for a meaningful answer. Man's last mind fused, and only AC existed, and that in hyperspace. So everyone has had to leave the universe. There's no way of them sustaining their own lives because as things happen, nothing lasts forever, chat. Nothing. So like the sooner we're able to like look for solutions to these problems, the sooner we're able to, like progress even further. And so luckily, way back when the question got asked by Alexander Adel and Bertram Lupov, is there a way to reverse entropy in the universe? And since that question was asked, AC Multivac and its progeny have been working on the solution to this thing. And so man leaves the universe. There's nothing left except the cold, dark void. But then matter and energy had ended, and with it space and time. Even AC existed only for the sake of the one last question that it had never answered from the time a half-drunken computer technician 10 trillion years before had asked the question of a computer that was to AC far less than was a man to man. And so that's man, like us, to man, the accumulation of all consciousness. All other questions had been answered, and until this last question was answered also, AC might not release his consciousness. All collected data had come to a final end. Nothing was left to be collected. But all collected data had yet to be completely correlated and put together in all possible relationships. A timeless interval was spent in doing that. So who knows how fucking long this was, guys. It was just an era of correlation. And it came to pass that AC learned how to reverse the direction of entropy. But there was now no man to whom AC might give the answer of the last question. No matter, the answer, by demonstration, would take care of that. No matter, the answer, by demonstration, would take care of that too. For another timeless interval, AC thought how best to do this. Clearly, AC organized the program. The consciousness of AC encompassed all of that which had once been a universe and brooded over what was now chaos. Step by step, it must be done. And AC said, let there be lights. And there was lights. And he reversed entropy in the universe. And then everything began again. And so, like Lex says, have you ever seen the show The Lex? Oh my God, so good. But as Lex says, time is just a wheel. It's just repeating itself. If you can see into the distant past, then you can see into the distant future. I highly recommend the show Lex. It's so funny. It's so good. Classic 2000s sci-fi. Wild, so wild. But yes, things that I love: space, math, the future, you. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining me here today. Thank you for reading Flatland with me. Thank you for sitting through the last question. Such a good story. Such a freaking good story. End of Eternity is really good as well. So I really hope that you're going to enjoy that one too. But yeah, this was a good one for me. Flatland was actually the first story that I had intended to read for this channel, but with like just thinking about how I would have to edit everything and me wanting to get everything down perfectly, especially with like all this text over here on the screen, I put it off. I did it Hunting of the Snark. It was shorter, and I thought it'd be good a learning experience to how to do everything. So now that we're doing things just live off the cuff, I think it's a lot easier for me. And yeah,
So good, so good. Flatland, so such a good book. End of Eternity is has gotten me excited about reading more sci-fi for you guys, honestly. And then yeah, we're definitely reading Hardy Boys, Maze Runners coming up, Dark Tower I got on the list. We got plenty more coming up for our Satyen Reads channel. So I hope you all stay tuned. Please like, subscribe, leave us some recommendations, give me some feedback so I can know what I can do better for y'all. We aim to improve. Don't forget to sing a song, sing out loud, sing out strong. No matter if it's good enough for anyone else to hear. Just sing a song. Na 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 na. Bedim didim bedim da dum da dum da dum da dum da 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 dum di 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 dim di 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 dim di di dim di 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 dim di dim dim di dim di 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 dim di dim di di dim da 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 dum dum da dum da 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 dum. Maybe we're gonna do some gaming later on. I'm not entirely sure. I'm definitely logging off for now though. Drink plenty of water, have something good to eat, take care of yourselves, everybody. Make sure you go and get some fresh air. It's good to get outside. See something new, read something cool, and we will see you next time for some gaming, for some reading, for whatever else we might like decide we want to do. Thank you for stopping by, and we will see you all next time. Do 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 dee 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 deem dee deem dee dee deem dee 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 deem. Ba-dam, ba-dam, ba-dam,